The rain didn't fall that night. It attacked. Sideways rain driven low by a wind that scraped the ground like a blunt knife. We complain about the cold with heaters humming and walls sealed tight. Out on the old plains, there was none of that. A winter rainstorm could kill a fire in seconds so fast the warmth barely had time to rise. Wind water and frozen soil, that was the triangle that stole heat. Wet, cold, no fire, and once the flames died, there was no dry wood to bring them back. I've stood in storms like that. Your breath turns sharp, your fingertips stiffen. You feel the heat getting sucked out of you the way the land drinks a puddle dry. Yet somehow, in nights when even the hides were soaked through, native families still slept warm. No wood, no flame. So how did they do it? Sideways rain hits different out on the plains. It comes in low, scraping the ground, carrying cold the way a river carries silt. And when that wind meets winter, rain warmth slips away faster than a man can hold his breath. Set a teepee in the wrong spot, and the storm does the rest. Water stings through the hide, wind curls under the base. The soil turns to mud, then to ice, pulling heat downward like a slow hand. I've spent nights like that. One mistake with the land and the cold wins the whole fight. But the old tribes learned something most people today never notice. You don't battle the rain from above. You stay out of the wind that brings it. Out here, survival starts with reading the storm, not resisting it. So they tucked their teepees behind small rises, brush lines, and natural bumps of earth. Anything that cast a wind shadow. They avoided low pockets where water gathers and ground cold crawls upward. They chose the land the way a hunter chooses a trail, slow and deliberate. The shelter was warmer because the location was smarter, and the payoff was real. With the wind broken and the rain deflected, nearly half the water never touched the hide. Less water meant less heat slipping away. Warmth lasted longer. Sleep stayed possible. Survival out here was never about muscle. It was about reading the wind. And that rule hasn't changed. Camp in the cold today, choose the wrong spot, and you lose the night. Choose the right one, and the land itself keeps you alive. Out here, survival is not about making heat. It's about keeping every bit you already have. Buffalo hide can take a beating, but sideways winter rain is a different kind of enemy. It hits low slides across the surface and pushes cold deeper with every gust. And once that hide gets soaked, the warmth inside starts slipping away fast. A tippy shaking in a storm isn't the real danger. The danger is when the water begins to creep through the seams. A single wet panel can pull heat from a family the way frozen soil pulls heat from a fire. I've watched storms do that. It happens quicker than most folks think. So the Plains tribes learned to shape their shelters the same way they shaped their lives, by reading the direction of the storm. They didn't wait for the rain to fall. They prepared for the angle it traveled. Before the worst weather hit, they lowered the teepee's pitch by 10 or 15 degrees. That small tilt turns the entire hide into a natural slide, sending the rain down and away instead of letting it soak and settle. They stretched the hide tight enough to bounce water off, tight enough that no sagging edge could gather cold. Then they sealed every seam with a thin blend of fat and ash, a simple mix that kept the wind from biting through the gaps. No fancy tools, just skill, patience, and an eye for water's path. And the payoff was real. A well-angled teepee shed rained like a roof, kept the inner walls dry, and held warmth long after the storm began. Dry is warm. Wet is death. The people here knew that better than anyone. Even today, winter campers use the same idea. Change the angle shape the shelter and let the storm slide off instead of through. Warmth isn't created. Warmth is protected. Winter rain does something cruel to the ground out on the plains. It turns soft soil into cold mud, then into a sheet of frozen weight. And once that happens, the earth starts pulling heat from a body faster than any wind ever could. Sleep on that, and you lose more warmth than a fire can give back. Most people today think lying close to the earth feels natural, but in a storm like this, the earth is the enemy. Ground cold crawls upward. It steals heat the way sideways rain steals fire. I've felt that cold bite through blankets. It moves slow, but it never stops. That's why the old tribes built a floor before they built a bed. They laid flat stones down first piece by piece, shaping a surface that stayed firm and dry even when the world outside turned to ice. Stone doesn't soak, doesn't turn to mud, doesn't cling to the skin like wet earth does. It stays what it is: stable, predictable, a steady partner in weather that doesn't play fair. On top of those stones, they set willow mats, light, breathable, and quick to dry. Then the hides went over that layer far above the cold grip of the frozen ground. Around the edge, they carved small runoffs so water could slip away instead of pooling underneath. Simple, silent, precise. And the payoff was enormous. With the cold cut off, the body kept more of its own heat. Warmth lasted. The night became something they could survive instead of endure. People still use this idea today. Modern bushcrafters set stones under their shelters for the same reason. Because out here, survival isn't about fighting the cold. It's about staying dry, staying lifted, and staying smart. Out here, survival is just another word for guarding your warmth. Rainstorms on the plains didn't just put out the fire, they kept it out. Once the rain soaked the wood, there was no bringing a flame back. And when the fire died, the cold started crawling up from the ground like it knew your name. Most folks today think warmth comes from adding more heat. Out here, warmth came from not losing the heat you already had. That was the real trick. And the tribes understood it better than anyone. Stone was never the enemy. Cold, wet earth was. The stones were just a way to keep your heat out of its reach. So, on the wettest nights when the storm hammered sideways and the hides were soaked, they built what we now call a stone pocket. A small circle of stones, close and tight, placed where the rain couldn't wash them away. They'd sit beside it or press their legs and hips against it, letting their own body warm the stone slowly. Not fast, not dramatic, but steady, the way nature works when you don't fight it. Later, when it was time to sleep, they pulled those warm stones under the hides, tucking them near the feet or the lower back. And that simple move kept a pocket of heat alive for 8 to 12 hours. No flames, no glowing coals, just stored warmth riding out the storm. The genius of it was quiet. They weren't making heat, they were banking it, saving what little they had and letting the stones give it back through the night. A natural battery charged by the human body. People still use this trick today, even if they don't realize where it came from. Hot stones in modern camping are built on the same idea, just using fire to heat them instead of rain and body warmth. But out here, when everything was soaked and silent, they didn't need fire at all. Out here, survival lives or dies on how well you bank the heat you already have. When the rain killed the fire, the body became the last furnace on the plains. No sparks, no coals, just a single source of heat trying to outlast a storm that scraped the ground and stole warmth every chance it got. Most people today think cold beats you from the outside. Out here, it beats you from the inside first. If your core cools before you lie down, you won't warm up again. Not in weather where your breath turns sharp and your fingertips stiffen in seconds. I've felt that kind of cold. It doesn't shout, it waits. That's why the tribes prepared their bodies like they prepared their shelters. Deliberate, calm, precise. Before sleeping, they warmed themselves just enough light squats, small movements, nothing that brought sweat. Sweat is the enemy at night. Once you're wet, warmth slips away faster than you can hold onto it. Then they slowed the breath. Long, steady pulls of air. Not fast, not forced, just controlled. Breathing like that turns the body into a slow-burning fire, keeping heat where it matters most, deep in the core. Hands, close feet protected the cold, pushed out instead of in. And the payoff was real. A body warmed the right way could hold its heat for hours, even when the teepee shook in the storm and the hides were soaked. No firewood, no flame, Just discipline. The kind of discipline survival demands. It's the same rule modern survivalists still follow: warm before you sleep. Because on nights like these, strength won't save you. Gear won't save you. Only the body you prepare, the furnace you guard, keeps you alive. Warmth isn't created. Warmth is protected. When winter rain hits sideways on the plains, the cold doesn't just fall from above. It moves low, scraping across the ground, stealing heat in a straight horizontal line. That kind of cold doesn't care how strong you are. It only cares how alone your body is in the dark. Sleep scattered in a storm like that, and every person cools on their own. The warmth slips away one body at a time. I've seen cold do that. It doesn't rush. It separates you first. Then it takes the rest. But the old families knew something simple and brilliant. Heat isn't strongest in a fire. It's strongest in people. And when bodies share space, warmth becomes a structure, a shape you can build. They formed what we now call the sleeping triangle, or sometimes the stacked formation. Children in the center, where the cold couldn't reach them. The strongest adults on the outer edge, facing the direction of the wind. Then a single hide pulled over everyone, shaped into a soft dome that trapped the heat rising from the group. Not fancy, not heroic, but precise. The way survival is. Inside that shape, the air warmed by 8 to 15 degrees. A tiny microclimate built not from gear or fire, but from the human body itself. Warmth layered on warmth. Breath mixing with breath. A small world fighting a big storm. And here's the part that stays with you. A family sleeping together could survive nights that would kill a person sleeping alone. Human structure beat weather structure. People beat the storm simply by standing or sleeping together. Modern rescuers still use the same idea. Emergency clusters, shared covers, body heat kept inside a human-made shelter of people. Because the rule hasn't changed. Out here, staying warm simply means not letting the cold take what's already yours. On the plains, a winter rainstorm didn't just steal heat. It stole sound. Heavy rain muffled everything: footsteps, breathing, even the warning cracks of frozen soil. And in that kind of silence, danger could walk right up to the teepee without anyone knowing. That's why dogs were more than companions. They were night sensors. A dog could hear what humans couldn't, even when the storm scraped the ground and drowned the world in noise. I've watched dogs in weather like that. They don't guess. They know. Families also built small snow or mud mounds around camp, not for walls, but for vibration. Anything stepping over or brushing against them sent a tremor through the ground, a quiet alert in a night where vision and hearing failed. And here's the truth most people forget. When the fire died, the danger didn't fade with it. Rain made the cold worse, but it also made the world easier for threats to move through. So they relied on dogs. On the earth, on the tiny signals storms couldn't erase, because out here, survival wasn't loud. It was silent and alert. The storm always sounds louder when the fire goes out. Rain tapping on the hide, wind scraping the ground, a teepee standing dark against the night. From the outside, it looks cold enough to break a man, but inside, the warmth still holds. Not from flame, not from wood, from the choices they made long before the storm arrived. Stone under them, warmth beside them, family around them, discipline in every small movement. I've seen nights like that. The world frozen, but the people steady. That's the lesson the plains leave behind. You don't survive winter rain by overpowering it. You survive by understanding it, guiding it, letting nothing steal the heat you already have. No wood, no fire, still warm. Stay by the fire.